Flying Joe. Know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 658, Weep Nachos. And you will weep. Ugh. Can you be so bored that you cry? How does that work? Yeah.
You can, actually.
Yeah. This would be a good test.
Yeah.
Be a good test of that theory. So, Cry Macho.
Oh, my God.
With and by Clint Eastwood.
Call it a day.
So I guess before we dig in, let's go around the table and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. Quick shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. While you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on the Facebook, facebook.com/realspoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. It's called the League of Show Sharers because we're hoping you will share an episode. It helps us so much, and it doesn't cost you a thing. And people who were kind enough to share an episode last week include Librarian Cynthia, Ralph Tribble, Tammy Sherman-Powers, Chris Williams, Jason Weesey, Gabriel Lugo, Heather Sachs, Laura Connolly-Quiddick, Lane Levanway, ATL Bone and Bread.
That's a new
All
one.
right.
That is a new one, so
Yeah.
welcome. In Session Film, Talk Nerdy to Me, Mike, and Oscar, Minorities Report, the Movie Journey Podcast, the podcast that wouldn't die, which I don't know what that's about, but I dig the name.
Yeah.
Although I think that we're kind of that.
We are kind of that.
I mean,
That's
we're
what they call us.
Yeah.
659 episodes, right? 58,
Well,
whatever
58,
I just said 2
58,
seconds ago.
yeah.
Invasion of the Remake, Geek to Me Radio, Video Advocate, We Have a Hulk, Spoiler Piece, Theater, Ryan Terry from the Forza Crowd podcast, Ronnie Castle, Kathy Woods, Matt Naglia, Chris Wilson, Feel and Film, and Binge Movies. Thank you so much for sharing an episode. We greatly appreciate it. And you can also check out our Patreon, which is the way to help us that does cost money, but we like you even better, and that is at patreon.com/realspoilers. $5 a month. You get all sorts of bonus content, including insert content here.
The new Halloween episodes. So I'll be doing, like I talked about last week, I've got 4 episodes planned. We're going to try to break down all of the different Halloween timelines, because I was thinking about it. I can't think of another franchise that has rebooted their timeline besides the X-Men, maybe, more than Halloween.
James Bond?
I don't know if that's much as the timeline.
Yeah, they just don't really
Right?
address
They just
it.
don't
Yeah.
address it
Yeah.
until
Different.
this is the most recent one.
Right, they started
the one where they're just
to
like,
do world
we
building.
have- yeah.
yeah.
But
They're like, oh, that Marvel thing over there? That's working out pretty well.
I guess we could do that.
Because they kind of
Wait.
rebooted around the same time, right?
Did they? When was Casino Royale?
But Casino Royale, I guess that might have been around the same. But I don't feel like Casino Royale was them necessarily world building. That was
but once that came out, and then they're like, oh, maybe
right.
we
Then
did that
after
right.
that, they started.
It was like we could put
They started
all of
doing
these
that.
together,
Yeah.
with the same guy.
Which I get why you wouldn't, because they would do one Bond, and then they'd be like, oh, well, maybe we
Well,
can,
they would.
you know.
Well, no,
so
I
Casino
mean,
Royale was 2006. So that was
that's
Yeah.
pretty close.
But that predates.
2008 is Iron Man.
Okay.
yeah. So they, so after.
Man, I gotta tell you, I just rewatched that Casino Royale. Not
Oh,
Iron
okay.
Man.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
Oh, yeah.
It's
great.
so good. It's so good.
I don't know why parkour hasn't become more popular in movies. It's so fun to watch. Like I don't
Parkour.
for real.
Yeah.
Like I like when they incorporated that opening scene in Casino Royale.
It's fantastic.
It's great. And there was that parkour action movie that they made. It was all in French or something.
B12.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Or
And-
District 12. No, District 9. That's what I
think-
was thinking of.
Yeah.
It was called B12
I
or
think it was called
B-
B12.
or
Yeah.
D12.
D12, maybe.
Maybe.
No, I think that D12 is the Eminem.
Oh, that is. You're right. Yeah.
Side project.
Yes, that's right.
B13,
I'm pretty
A113,
210, 220.
whatever it takes.
THX.
Yeah, but that movie was a blast.
Yeah.
And then they tried to remake it in America
With
Right.
with
there were two.
Was
in
that
France.
with the guy
Paul Walker?
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but then they were like, "What if we remade this parkour movie, but then didn't use any parkour?" And I'm
because
just
our
like,
guys can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was like,
right,
that
right.
was like when I was in high school, and we did a version of Meet Me in St. Louis, but with no music, and
What?
which is
It was
honestly
called B13.
it.
Is it?
District B13.
Okay.
Yeah.
It began life actually the stage play as no music, and then they turned.
Oh,
it in-
really?
Yeah, but it's awful, right? Like that's,
Sure.
That's the worst. Those are the worst parts of the movie
Yeah.
when they stop singing and
Stop.
start
Singing's
talking.
the good part of the show.
Yeah, like it's, and I'm just like, who the hell wants this?
In between, you're like, oh my god, it's kind of like this movie actually.
Yeah.
No, this movie all the way through is like that.
They
Well,
could
I
use
know,
some singing
but
in this
the
movie.
non-talking parts
Yeah.
are like this movie.
But I don't even know. But so anyway, the world needs more parkour, is what I'm saying.
I like it.
I'm
I like
a
it.
fan.
Clint Eastwood parkour movie.
Oh,
Yes,
sign me
he
up.
can
for
only
that.
make one, but
And in his final film,
yeah.
Ugh.
Oh,
Parkour
I mean, if we're gonna go
macho.
out,
Yeah.
parkour macho.
dig it. So
no, he'd probably do 20 of them somehow.
probably
you know?
would,
He'd be
yeah.
doing parkour movies till he was
One
110.
take. He's
Yeah.
gonna do them in
Oh,
one
yeah.
take.
well, he's notorious for one
That's what I'm
take.
saying,
That's
yeah.
he
Yeah.
doesn't like to do multiple takes, which
can tell.
yeah. I mean, time is of the essence
For him.
at that age.
Yeah.
You know. Oh man. So
Except for those sex scenes, though. For
God
some reason, he does.
Damn it.
I heard he did 20, 30 takes of those.
He was like,
just
"We
kept-
got it. Let's go again."
he didn't have sex scenes. It was just him refusing sex. Like that's
Which
Yeah, but-
also,
but
we'll get to it.
Yeah.
We'll get to
But
it.
at that age, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's close.
Oh man, so I went to see Alanis last night.
Yeah.
I'm old.
Did you think we ought to know? or what?
Yeah, I did. It was she was great.
That's what you said.
I
Yeah.
couldn't believe how good she was.
My wife was there.
Yeah, and I did not go with your wife. Just we don't want to start any rumors. We don't want people.
Interesting.
No,
We don't
rumors.
want
That's
people-
Fleetwood Mac. It's a different band.
Yes.
It's all together.
We don't want people fan fictioning real spoilers.
Oh.
I took my own wife, thank you very much, and I didn't even run into his wife. So, but my ex-wife was there. But luckily, I didn't run into her.
Run
either.
over her.
Yes,
It's a different story.
but it's but I had to post lots of pictures just so she could see that I had better seats.
That is some snarky bull. That is
That's what social media is for.
Would you put it past him?
no,
Absolutely not.
no. It's great.
I
It's fantastic.
so I went to the concession stand. I just thought this was weird to me. I don't know if anybody else has ran into this. I went to the concession stand to get something to drink, and I was like,
I have done that.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like,
That's
I don't
pretty common.
I don't normally do this. I didn't. They were Pepsi, and I'm on Coke Zero right now, and so I was just like, I say it like it's a drug. I'm on Coke
I know.
Zero.
Did you leave in protest?
I'm on the Coke Zero.
Here's hoping that we get that sponsor.
And so, and so I was like, oh, I'll just order water. And so I was like, oh, can I just a bottle of water? And he's like, oh, we just have cans of water.
What?
And I was like,
Oh, like an environment thing.
I was like, cans of water? And I was just, and so then I was like, yeah, let's do a can of water. I'm like, I thought the only way I'd ever get to drink a can of water was if I would like survived a natural
Right.
disaster, like a hurricane or another Trump administration. And so I'm
Anheuser-Busch
like,
sends a bunch of...
so I'm like, and then I'm like, wait a second, is Live Nation about to charge me like $8 for some FEMA surplus? And then, but I went from instantly from mad to like kind of in love with just the sheer audacity of it.
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
was it
bold.
big, though? Was
it was
big?
it was a big can.
It's a big can.
It's a big giant
Okay.
can. Like the
24 ounce,
like
not a-
24
Yeah.
Liquid death.
of liquid death.
Oh, it is
Yeah.
Liquid
That's
Death.
what it's
Okay.
called. I'd never heard of this.
You don't know Liquid Death?
No.
Joe Manganiello is their spokesperson.
I don't know who
And
that
He
is.
signed it.
Yeah, you do.
No,
He's,
you know Joe
he's
Manganiello.
Mr. Sofia Vergara.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's in the new Pee-wee movie. He's his friend that wants to go.
I never
his
got
birth-
around to seeing
You
the
never
movie.
watched the new
Yeah.
Pee-
He was
It's-
he was
my
in Magic
God.
Mike.
Okay.
He was the big like Tarzan looking guy. in
Bearded
Magic
guy.
Mike.
It'd be the bearded
okay.
one. You've,
okay.
Yeah, you know him.
No,
from
and I was just like, what a dumb thing.
Flash Thompson's from
This
Sam
is-
Raimi's Spider-Man.
This is the stupidest thing. First off, it's water. Water is the opposite of death. Like next to air, it's the most important thing you need for life.
Right.
And then like later, we're in our seats and they're running ads, and the ads actually say it won't actually kill you. Like if you got to tell people the product isn't actually going to kill people,
We've reached the point.
like then pick another name.
Well, they didn't used to, but the reason you're talking about it the way you are is because that was their whole marketing. So Joe Manganiello signed a contract with the devil and sold his soul to become part owner or the sponsor. Like, there's a backstory to it, and so like it got a ton of marketing back when it was first announced, and so their whole thing is playing up the water.
I hate everything about it. I hate, like, you get it in this can, and it's got this Ed Hardy approved
I was going to say, does it
font.
look like an Affliction T-shirt
Yeah,
on a
it looks
can?
like...
I mean,
like,
it's metal because it's liquid death. You know,
yeah,
it's,
and I'm
that's
just like, look, man, like water doesn't need to be tough. It's water, right? Like if your masculinity is threatened by
Drinking
water, by drinking water, like that's a problem, man.
Wait a
Like,
minute, are
that's-
you saying that they should learn to cry macho?
Yeah, they should. I was just like, why do we need water to be tough?
Tough water.
That's
tough guy water.
Oh,
I mean,
It's got electrolytes.
like, what happened? Did someone make you drink Aquafina out of a hollowed out dildo? What happened to you?
Like, how
that you're
hollowed-
like,
how hollowed out?
I'm really thirsty, but drinking this water might make me look gay.
Oh, but
I
but,
can't
like
do
which way?
that.
Which way are you drinking it from the dildo?
Well, it's a double-ended dildo.
Oh, so it doesn't matter.
If in for a dime, in for a dollar.
I'm with you. I'm
Yeah,
with you.
so
yeah.
anyway,
That makes
Liquid
sense.
Death, this is the opposite of a commercial. Liquid Death is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Unfortunately, I
Liquid-
think they just got a free 3-minute commercial out of
Liquid
you.
Death just pulled. They're like, we're going to send those guys an email, but we just
You
listened.
know how
to
many
their-
times you just said liquid death and we
Oh.
explained it? Like,
It's
I mean,
the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
But
If you're
you would
drinking
not-
Liquid Death, you look like a fucking idiot.
Did you drink Liquid Death yesterday?
And they made me pour it into a cup, thankfully.
but it's like you wouldn't be talking if you went to get a bottle of water. You wouldn't be talking about it unless it was liquid death.
Wait.
Well,
so
I mean, they
wait,
could have
wait.
called it runny diarrhea. That's not a good, like, I would still be talking about it, but it's not a good.
But you won't believe the kind of water I had to buy. Runny diarrhea water.
Yeah.
Can you believe this?
I think they went after a market that they were trying to tap in.
That is afraid drinking water makes them look gay. Like that's what it comes down to.
I'm not
like,
drinking water,
I'm
it's
so
liquid
worried
death.
about my masculinity. What if somebody puts some in this? I can't risk liquid death. That doesn't sound like it's got any in it. Okay, give me a can of that.
Little do you know, it's exactly what it sounds like.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, what a dumb.
So
thing.
wait. So
What a
they
dumb,
they
dumb
sold
thing.
you the bottle. They sold you the can, but then they poured it into a cup.
Yeah, because like some artists are afraid you're going to chuck things at the stage.
Alanis Morissette is afraid they're going to chuck cans.
She ought to know.
Oh, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's an artist driven thing because the venue hates it because it slows down everything.
I bet it does.
But
Can't
it
just
was
hand
only
stuff
like
out.
if you're so it was you only had to pour it into a cup if you were sitting close to the stage. So like my ex-wife did not have to pour it into
excellent.
a cup.
Yeah, no.
Which oddly enough, she's probably more likely to chuck a can into the stage. But
well, little do they know she's got a good arm. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't have-
She's got a cannon, so
Yeah.
that's the problem.
but yeah, so we had to pour it into a cup.
so how was Alanis?
She was amazing.
Was she?
I can't believe that she still sounds as good as she did in 1995. Like
Jagged Little Pill.
Yeah, and it's the Jagged Little Pill tour,
Yeah,
like
25th
So she
anniversary,
played
yeah.
all this. I mean, it was like
Did she play any new stuff, or was it just the album?
she played some new stuff and then some other hits. She played like "Thank You" and "Uninvited,"
Sure.
but she sounds amazing. Absolutely,
I want to watch the new doc. I don't know. I mean, I don't
She
know.
was
if it-
not a fan of it. I haven't
yeah,
seen it, but
everyone that's seen it's like it doesn't really make her look bad or anything. So I don't know. I think it may be a little bit like publicity to drum it up, just to kind of
Yeah.
like because now we all know she has a doc coming out, which I wouldn't have probably
Yeah.
normally. But
Are you going to
Alanis-
drink Liquid Death while you're watching it?
No.
From the can?
in a cup.
I am actually so macho that I am not afraid to drink water.
So anyway, there's enough about the Atlanta show. But if you get a chance, if you're in a different market, I would highly recommend it. She was amazing.
That's awesome.
I couldn't believe like how much power she had, and like she would be just belting out things like super loud, like the loudest wailing part of a song for her,
Yeah.
know. And she'd be holding the microphone like at her waist.
She's got to.
Oh,
yeah.
dang.
like and it was like
She knows.
yeah.
There are still like
You ought to know.
you
ought
ought
to
to know. There are acts that I'm always still shocked when I look at Dave Grohl. I'm just like, how are you still screaming?
Yeah.
At that level. I mean, Axl Rose can't do it. He can't. He can
Dave
do it a
probably
little bit.
Takes
but
care of himself better than Axl.
that's
Yeah.
probably true. Who's the gal from
And-
Heart? Nancy.
I always forget which one sings, but it's Ann and Nancy Wilson.
I think it's Nancy Wilson,
Okay.
but she can still go.
Yeah.
like that gal could.
I think-
I would love to go to a Heart concert.
I think they're good. I've seen them a couple times, and I think a lot of it comes down to if you had training.
Oh,
right?
that's true.
Like, and so
Yeah.
I know that like Chino from the Deftones had issues because they do a lot of screaming.
Yeah.
and then he was having throat issues, and he went to see a doctor, and the doctor was like, you're doing what? And they're like,
You've got the vocal cords of a 900-year-old man.
He's like, no, you can't do that. Like, that's not how that works. And I know
Talk to Vince Neil.
Well, he never sounded good.
No, he didn't.
I have bootlegs from the 80s.
He sounds awful.
He's always been out of breath.
They fixed that in post.
Yeah,
That's what they did for those albums.
I mean, for real. Like, if you listen to live stuff, I had like a bootleg from like 80, like the Shout at the Devil tour, and it was like, shout, devil, blood dies. Like, he can't. Like,
you sing it.
Yeah,
you sing it.
He can't. Like, he's never been in shape. He's just been thinner.
Right.
But now
right.
he's heavy and out of shape. But like Mickey Dolenz talks about how he never had any formal training, and Mickey Dolenz has an amazing voice, and still sounds great. And
Halloween Zone,
and he's like 74, I think. But he
is he really?
Yeah, he was on Broadway in Aida, the Elton John thing, and when he got cast in that, they were like, well, you got to do this,
like vocal training.
But you got to do 8 shows a week, and he was like, oh, and so they were like, let us teach you how to sing.
Is that their parody of 8 Days a Week?
Yeah, they were like, they were like, we actually have to. He actually had to learn how to sing.
Dang.
And he credits it with saving. He says the 2 things that have saved his voice is, 1, for 20 years nobody wanted to book him, and so
he got a rest.
So he's like, I wasn't out like singing for 300 people a night because nobody cared. But he was like, but when I went to Broadway, they taught me how to sing, and I sing totally differently now, but it saved my voice. So it could be that.
That's crazy.
Anyway,
that's awesome though.
Cry Macho.
Well,
God, this
first,
movie sucks.
I got to tell you guys, I signed a contract and Liquid Death.
At least
maybe I should have led with that.
Let's do it as Coke Zero. Like, I got to tell you, I think Clint Eastwood is a fine filmmaker, right? I think the last thing that I saw of his, he has been, right? Like he knows
he's made some great movies.
What was the last? What was the Rubber Baby one?
American Sniper.
That was the last one I remember watching and being like, God dang, like this is a fantastic movie.
I feel like that was his last really big hit.
Was the baseball one after that?
He didn't direct the baseball one.
Yeah, he just started that one.
Yeah,
with,
he just started
with Amy
Justin
Adams,
Timberlake, and Amy Adams. He didn't. Yeah, he just
like Trouble with the Curve.
Yeah. But I
don't know why I know that. I did not look that up.
But after American Sniper, I don't think he's really made a hit like that, or I mean, he's been making a lot of
one, the 915 to whatever.
So this, Jesus Christ, this was probably this is the worst thing I've seen all year.
This is a snooze fest.
It is. I wouldn't say it's like one of the worst, but it's just
it's pointless.
There is no point.
He's tried. There's a point somewhere in there that he's trying to make, but the movie is not effective in making the point.
Like even if you go back and try to analyze, like what are you trying to say?
The point is that you shouldn't be macho. He sums up the entire movie with basically his last line in the film. So this movie could have been a TikTok video. All he's trying to say,
Can we get Clint Eastwood on TikTok? That would be fantastic.
He says the last thing in the movie is like, kid, he shouldn't have to be macho or whatever. You know what I mean? Like he says it, and so they give you
because at the end he's like, kid, don't drink Liquid Death.
Right. I know it's appealing now.
It might have.
So it's like the whole movie they try to set up a whole bunch of scenarios with people being macho, and clearly every time someone's macho it backfires and they're ridiculous, like the ridiculous guy trying to get this kid back that is like taking pratfalls because you know what I mean, like because Clint Eastwood,
that poor guy.
Clint Eastwood is outdoing the 91-year-old Clint Eastwood is punching and outdoing, but he like falls in a ditch and he crashes whatever. So the whole point is like, oh, see, if you're macho, it doesn't work out. You got to not be macho. And
which is just crazy for a guy who literally built his entire
but it's
career.
Okay. You can be self-reflective on his career. Like, that's a great
I feel
concept
like you could take that message and build a really good movie around it. It's not this one.
No,
but
it's not.
It's Gran Torino.
Yeah.
That's fair.
There's 2 hours of them just doing this nonsense stuff.
Yeah.
And they can't, that point at the end, which could have been really poignant, isn't because they don't make enough good examples throughout the film, right?
Yeah.
Like the kid that he's trying to find, Tom and I talked about this off air, but the kid he's trying to find and bring back to the States is not macho enough to teach him the lessons of don't be macho.
I hate to bag on kid actors, he's not good.
This kid's the worst.
And
I say kid, but he's got to be what, 15?
I
Oh,
guess.
maybe
And you know,
16?
like, so in Gran Torino, the kids in that movie were pretty good until like the really heavy lifting parts at the end.
Yeah.
And now the difference there is they were trying to tell a specific story about a specific culture, and that culture doesn't have many professional actors, especially child actors.
That's fair.
So they wanted to cast that ethnicity to tell that story.
I think now you'd have a better shot.
Probably.
With all the movies that have come out recently.
Yeah.
Like, you look at Minari, and the kids are really great in that.
Yeah,
And, I mean,
but
there's...
but these were what was the? It's I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's like HMONG. They're like it's
Hong,
I guess maybe, and it's like a sliver of Vietnam or right
Okay.
next to Vietnam, and they basically like a bunch of that ethnicity we let into the country after Vietnam because they had helped us fight
sure,
the
sure,
Vietnamese,
sure.
and so
Gotcha.
there's a ton of them in Detroit, and so that's what that movie but they wanted to
It's a very specific
Right,
subset. It's
yeah.
not just Asian actors.
It's
You're
not
saying they
just-
got to find that Vietnamese subset. Of,
Right.
Got it.
And-
it's not just going to Mexico.
right, but
Yeah.
like there are lots of Mexican
Yes.
child actors.
Yes.
I have no doubt you can find
Sure.
and like but yeah, like this kid wasn't like nothing about this kid read as a kid who was trying to look tough.
Besides, like being a street kid, and I
Yeah.
mean, he has that one scene where he's taking his shirt off and he's got all the scars on his back,
Right.
and he's just like, I think Clint Eastwood says like, "Are those from living on the streets?" He's like, "Yeah, some of them." So like the way he's kind of like nonchalant about, "Yeah, I mean, whatever. I have scars on my back."
But he didn't have grit.
no,
You know, there's like
no, you're absolutely
there
right.
are so many good child actors out there that could present some kind of tough guy punk kind of attitude, and so
Or street kid.
You know who I
Right.
thought of watching this movie because it's set in 79, and I know it's dumb because he's an adult now, but I was thinking of like kids that like were trying to look tough but maybe weren't as tough as they were trying to appear. Kelly Leak
Kelly
Yeah.
Leak, you are right.
and from Bad News
Yes.
Bears and
Jackie
and,
Earle Haley, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
and like that. I mean that
yeah, those
he
kids were some little punks.
Yeah, and like,
Yeah.
and they projected toughness even though they didn't have it. Like this kid doesn't project that
No.
at all.
No, and so I think that the way
I was
that-
thinking River Phoenix.
Yeah,
Like
I
a
could see
young
that, yeah.
River Phoenix kind of always had that little, like when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Stand By Me had that little punk attitude, but
Right.
you know,
Now, this kid, I think what they do in this movie is instead of showing you, they tell you. So that's where it really fails.
Right.
He just keeps saying, "I want to be macho."
Right.
I want to be macho, but they don't show you him being macho. So that makes it really hard because the visuals are not matching what he's saying. So you've got that,
Yeah, he keeps telling us
Yeah.
that it's important to him, but
not
nothing
doing
about
anything.
his appearance or his performance. Like, well, maybe we should start with the movie and
yeah.
we'll,
So basically, Clint Eastwood is like a horse wrangler for this. Who was this guy?
some might call him a cowboy.
Maybe,
former rodeo star.
but who was the guy he was working for?
like in real life? Who's
Yeah.
the actor? Dwight Yoakam.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Okay,
Also, not a good actor.
no,
not in this.
This was not.
Dwight Yoakam's done good.
Yeah.
I mean, remember he's the total dickweed in Sling Blade.
Yeah.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
So
you're
like,
right.
it's not like
Right.
Dwight Yoakam can't act.
That's
It
true.
might just be the script because
Yeah.
this
Could
whole
be.
thing, and I know this is based on a book, but like,
So it's based on a novel that started life as a screenplay that nobody wanted to make.
So they-
Hashtag go with your gut. And then he turned it into a novel, and they've been trying to make this movie
for 30 years.
for like
Are you
for like
serious?
50 years. I
Oh,
mean
50 years?
I mean
I thought it was
the
30.
book came out in like 75. I think the screenplay started circulating in 73. And like people that have been attached to this movie like Arnold Schwarzenegger at one point, Clint Eastwood who said he was too young, Burt Lancaster, Robert Mitchum,
All three of those names sound great.
Pierce Brosnan. They actually started filming this movie with Roy Schneider.
Oh, that
like
would've
years
been
ago,
fabulous.
And then I don't know what happened.
But Clint Eastwood 30 years ago is perfect for
Yeah.
that.
Clint
Why
Eastwood.
did he
Clint
not
Eastwood.
make-
30 years ago is. You're
That's
absolutely
what
right.
I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
he was old 30 years ago. Like he
Right.
was in his 60s. Like
But
why?
but he
But he would have had the presence.
that's
grit.
the difference,
Totally.
right? Like you look at this Clint Eastwood And there's one scene where he's walking. They're walking down this road.
I know exactly the scene.
And I'm
he's
looking at
walking
his
past the storefronts.
looking at his knees. And I'm
Yeah.
like, God,
Yeah.
he's got that old
that's
man walk.
That's why they did the time lapse when he was walking down the street. Remember?
Yeah.
When the
Did
when
they?
the truck gets stolen and he's
Yeah.
walking down the street, and all that they needed to do was show them walking down a street, and the shot actually transitions from them at the start of the scene to the end of the camera. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
The-
because
even looking at it, even
It's
looking
like
at his
they,
hands.
They had to do that. We made fun of them doing that for Liam Neeson so he could jump a fence.
Right.
Like they're doing it for him so he can literally walk from point A to point B.
which we're not trying to make fun of him
Totally.
because
He's
of his
just- he's
age,
an old man.
but he
Yeah.
shouldn't be in roles that don't work
Right.
around a
And
91-year-old
Yes.
age.
There are
It's-
points in this movie where we're supposed to believe that he's beating up people that are
Yes.
60
That
years younger
punch.
than him. Yeah.
when he
And-
takes a swing that first time and misses the guy, and he goes like, "Oh, you're fast, old man."
Yeah.
Like, what?
And you know what? Clint Eastwood 60 years or 30 years ago,
Would've
even
knocked
20
him
years
out.
ago, it
Right.
also would have been believable.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
70-year-old Clint Eastwood was in his prime for this role. I think 60-something would have worked, but 20 years ago, 70-year-old Eastwood, perfect. You're old enough, but you're
When
still
he-
strong enough, and you've got the...
When he's fighting people in Gran Torino,
Yes.
which is probably not 20, but probably 12
Close,
years at this
yeah.
point.
I think it's more than 12 even, isn't it? Or it's 2009, you're right. You're
Okay.
right.
Yeah, so
12.
like that's believable.
Yeah.
Like those scenes were believable.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like he's at the point now where it's not believable. Like this
2008 for
This
Gran
kid,
Torino.
it was somebody.
Maybe limited release.
I think it was.
it's
I think
2009.
yeah, like it 9 here. Sorry.
I don't know
somebody-
why I remember that stuff, but
Yeah.
with dates, sometimes I can just see the poster and the year. I don't
Yeah.
know why they go together.
That's pretty impressive.
I don't know why. I have a terrible memory. If you show me 9 squares and you flip them over, I will take me 20 turns to guess where they are. But if you ask me what something, because it's like when I was in high school and getting into movies and college, and like I think I just associate
Yeah,
my
I do
love
the
of
same thing.
movies,
I can
and it just
link it to certain times.
they connect.
Like
Yeah,
now, like the easy point of delineation for me is like, did I review it?
right.
And
That's-
I'm like,
yeah, that
okay,
hap-
it came out. So I started reviewing movies in 2000 in 2008.
I have reached
or
that
whatever.
point
Yeah.
now with the podcast. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, did we? I know we. I saw that movie. But like this, like at 91, somebody blows on him. He's like, "Who?"
It just doesn't work. And again, Clint Eastwood is an incredible director. Like Unforgiven.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
mean, he obviously has made a ton of great films. And back when he was just an actor and doing
sure.
Dirty Harry is a great movie. And
To me, he was always in the Man with No Name
Good,
series,
Bad, and the Ugly.
Pale
yeah.
Rider, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean,
he
he's-
is the quintessential tough guy.
Yeah.
Right?
I think he's
But he-
better than John Wayne, like acting wise.
I mean,
John-
John Wayne was kind
Have
of.
you
I don't
seen
want to say
very
he's-
many John Wayne movies? Like for real?
I've
like
seen
not trying to
big
be-
one. I've seen like the big
They're-
ones.
'cause
I've
they're-
seen,
like it's easy to take a dump on John Wayne,
Yeah.
like for a lot of reasons.
and I'm
But-
not saying a dump. I
Yeah,
just mean I think
yeah.
he's more talented.
but
than
like
famous.
John Wayne has he basically he did get into a rhythm, and
Yeah.
you see a lot of variations on a theme,
Sure.
for sure. But like he has turned in some amazing performances.
Sure,
in the script,
sure.
But
I agree with you. I think Clint Eastwood with those. I mean, I love those like the Fistful of Dollars for,
Oh,
for a
yeah.
few dollars
The
more.
Sergio
but
Leone stuff is
That's
great.
even Pale Rider and Hang 'Em High. Like all that stuff, I think is fantastic.
But Unforgiven, man.
Unforgiven-
Just every time someone talks about Unforgiven, I'm just like, I want to watch that movie.
There's
Yeah.
you know there's a remake of that. There's
No.
there's a Japanese remake of that starring.
I like that. An
It's,
actual Asian remake of an
yes.
American.
Yes.
ca-
did they
star-
make them samurais?
Yes,
That's
No.
great.
That they
no,
it's the opposite. yeah.
Who's the guy who played Ra's al Ghul? Not the
Ken
fake-
Watanabe.
Yes,
Yeah.
is
Or
the
Ken
Clint
Watanabe?
he's the Clint Eastwood character.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really I like
think it
that
came out-
concept
I
of them
think
flipping
came
it
out
back.
2013.
Like ever since Magnificent Seven, you know, like
Yeah,
that's
totally.
a really cool thing that
I think that's right.
instead of westernizing it to easternize,
Right.
I've
No,
never.
totally.
That's real. I'm gonna seek that out. That's
Now
cool.
I have to look it up.
But yeah, Clint Eastwood's amazing. So we're not taking a dump on Clint Eastwood, the man, the actor Clint Eastwood. But Clint Eastwood would have been perfect for this when they were developing it 30, 20 years ago even. But he's too old for the role. He doesn't have the impact of the macho guy that is macho, but trying to like undo his macho-ness. Like you don't believe that he's still really that macho.
Yeah.
No.
Because he doesn't seem that macho, and it doesn't work on that level. And then he's playing against a kid who thinks he needs to be macho but doesn't act macho and just says I'm macho. And so there's no like the lessons they learn are really not impactful because neither of them are really believable, and the circumstances they get into are not believable for just the way they act and look.
Yeah.
So
No.
you get 2 hours hours of them just kind of hanging out, and I'm all for a good quiet movie, but this movie has very little to say, at least effectively, and so it ends up just feeling like such a snooze. Like I cannot believe I started watching this movie at noon, so if I would have watched it any later, I'm sure I would have been passed out. But I
stopped it and came back to it.
Yeah, but I mean, when they're just like, just walking through a city and then just hanging out doing stuff in a little
feel like
restaurant.
This movie is very 70s, and they missed their window to make it.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie could have been made in the 70s very effectively, because there were a lot of movies like that, more quiet and contemplative and more just kind of lived in. And
but there was like a spark to them, though, right? So like, okay, when the drifter comes out from out of town,
and that spark when they work are the actors,
yes,
and the chemistry between
I was
going to
say the chemistry between them, right? So
and
him and the kid have to
none.
have chemistry. They don't.
Yeah.
And Clint Eastwood and his love interests. If you see him dancing with the lady, and you're like, "What a nice, touching." Okay, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. That random ass raindrops dropping romantic scene.
Worst part of an amazing movie.
But it works for some reason.
But it's better than what...
But there's chemistry and you believe it. So Clint Eastwood gets his raindrops moment where he's just like dancing with the small restaurant owner in this little town that ends up helping him, and the whole town ends up falling in love with him. Like, there's a story there if you believe that these people have this chemistry and everything. But when they don't, you just look at it and you're like, oh, this is just so boring,
and that's it. That's
there
the
was
bottom
no
line.
spark
There
to
is
this movie.
nothing.
And
this is a slow walk through this long ass movie,
just to get to him saying the point of the thing, like,
don't be macho.
yeah. Well, no, Eastwood says, and I
Eastwood
don't think
says
he
it,
has a Spanish accent.
No, he does.
But, oh, he does. Okay.
Yeah.
I missed that. Maybe I did fall asleep.
See, that's what I'm saying.
But
So Dwight Yoakam says, "Hey." He fires him basically because he's just a drunk and he's old and
not good at his job anymore.
But we find out that it's like Dwight Yoakam should have fired him 50 years ago. Like, this dude has kept him around. And
he had a
helped him.
moment where he was really good, but it's been a while. And
But he fell off a horse.
And
got injured, and Dwight Yoakam still paid him to keep him around and paid for his house, even though he couldn't work enough to pay for it. And like Dwight Yoakam is not a bad, in the sense that like of firing Eastwood, he's not a bad person.
Right.
You understand why eventually, where he's like, what are we doing here? You're never getting better. I'm paying you. I've done all this for you.
You can barely walk. Looking at those knees.
Yeah.
It's
like he shows up late for work. It's like, what else do you have to do? You
Yeah.
know, like, aren't you up at 4 a.m. drinking your coffee? Like, 90-year-old guy. I mean, like, why are you late for, like, at this point, and this is what he's saying, it's like, if you're late, you're doing that on purpose.
Right.
You really don't care because, like, you got nowhere else to be.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
not out late.
Right.
Come on.
So he goes home and he just, but then
For a year.
And then Dwight Yoakam. So now he's a year older.
Yeah.
At
Right.
this point. Yeah. So Dwight Yoakam calls him up and says, "Hey, I need you to go to Mexico and get my son." And Eastwood's like, "What?"
Which is where I texted Tom at the premise of this movie. I said, this is ridiculous. You're telling me that this guy who just fired this guy says, "Oh, you owe me, so now you have to go across the border."
You're the only one tough
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah,
You
right,
91-year-old guy that I just fired owe me, so you have to go now basically kidnap, as it will be viewed, my son across the border and get him back from this dangerous situation. I'm like, they lost me from that point. I'm like, this is a ridiculous premise.
So like this premise works if Clint Eastwood's character
is Liam Neeson from Taken. Is awesome, right?
Yeah. If he's the man with no name, if he's Dirty Harry,
right,
and he's just this old guy that is just shuffling through life, but he's not. He's like a horse wrangler, and that's what he did.
Well, but no, he was a rodeo star, so he should have been pretty. Because they show you in the flashback
you're right,
that he's a rodeo. So he was this big tough guy rodeo star. Because
they got Scott Eastwood to do those scenes.
Somehow his injury is front page news.
Small town
above the fold, right? But so like he's super tough, and then he kind of transitioned into coaching.
Yeah. Okay. And so he and Clint Eastwood's like, all right.
But it's a ridiculous ask.
Sure.
This is a ridiculous ask of anybody to do this because. Yeah, if you're some kind of secret agent or something, okay, fine, that's one thing. But you're asking a lot of this guy. Like, this is a ridiculous ask. And so I thought that the whole movie's based on this premise.
Right.
It's
ridiculous. This whole movie's ridiculous.
And this opening 10 minutes is pretty bad. And it's because they want to get to the to the premise. I credit them with not wasting their time.
That is true.
But it's like
Clint.
it's
Yeah.
so
That's
just
what I
like
thought
it's so just like here's a scene to establish that he's old and past his prime. Here's a scene to be like, go get the kid. Now go get the kid. Like
I half expected the kid to be a rubber kid the entire time. I'm not working with kids.
Well,
Are you
here's
crazy?
and then here's an hour and 50. Okay, sorry. To their credit, it's like an hour and a half movie, which
An
I'm
hour
like, thank
45.
Thank
Okay,
God.
but I messaged Tom again. I'm like, I'm so glad this isn't one of those 2 hour and a half movies. But the
Yes.
next hour and a half is spent just dawdling through
Yeah.
Mexico.
Not having sex with a gorgeous Mexican woman. by the way.
So he goes to
Well-
Mexico and he decides he's going to start with the mom that who has custody of the
Right,
child.
right.
And he goes to her and
in this massive mansion.
Who
Yeah.
she's got to be like a cartel member. Or something. Like, I mean,
she's got to be something up to no good.
there's
Yeah.
something.
Whatever it
She has a
is,
huge
she's-
mansion with bodyguards
Right.
that are
Right.
trigger happy. You know,
Yes.
like she is someone that I don't, but they don't explain it, right? And that
No.
could even be interesting if she had some kind of operation going on and he stumbles into that and he
Right.
has to avoid that. But yet it's
But
just
like, it is, you're right. Like they just check his ID. They're like, all right, man, we'll see you later.
yeah,
Good luck
Yeah.
finding that kid at the cockfight.
yeah.
gives
He's like-
him
and I do love that Clint Eastwood's like, oh, the cockfight? Like, yeah. Okay. And the first one he goes,
And
he's
just
like,
goes
there
to
he
the-
is.
the
Like, there's-
cock-
there's-
the marquee cockfight
there's
tonight.
only one cockfight in Mexico.
Yes, correct. And he just happens to pick the right one.
Yeah, and then the cops show up to bust up the cockfight. Oddly enough, I don't think cockfighting was illegal in Mexico in 1980, but go on.
Not sure it's illegal there now.
There's one, like, their version of a state, I think,
Oh,
where it's still
okay.
legal, but I think for the most part it was outlawed in 2012. I looked it up.
Outlawed
Yeah.
in 2012.
Yeah, I looked it up because I was like, I don't think that was illegal back then. Like,
That's
I had the
ridiculous.
same moment of like, not entirely convinced it's illegal now. Like, but so I don't know what the cops were busting up.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But like, it definitely feels like the mom does not give a shit.
Well,
No.
that's how they. Okay,
They've given up on. She's given up on the
the
kid.
mom. They say in the movie like the mom is with a different guy every night or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
she's
That's
constantly
her
bringing.
choice.
Yeah,
That's
fine,
fine.
but not 1980s. In 1980,
Oh, I'm
you're,
sorry.
you're a
Sorry,
slut.
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I thinking?
But I mean, she doesn't care about her kid. She's bringing home a different guy and telling the kid. He says that he has to call him uncle, which these are strangers, and so
Right.
he doesn't feel comfortable with that. And he gets beat around. He's got bruises. Like she is not a good parent. You know, like
Absolutely.
And she says that. She says that. It's like some people just aren't supposed to be parents.
Yeah,
Right.
Like,
and
that's
she's
a
like,
line.
I would love my son if more were he macho,
basically.
but he is not.
But he's not El Macho.
right.
But so she says, "Good
she's
luck."
like, look at my other son, Randy Savage,
Yeah, right?
who I love
And he's
immensely.
like, dig it.
I wish this was a Macho Man biopic.
Oh,
I think this might be the first time ever I
that
made
was
the wrestling reference.
I avoided it because I didn't want to get the bell, but I.
yeah,
all right.
sure you didn't. So
Chris Evans.
So
Chris Evans is Randy Savage.
so she says, "Yeah, I don't care. You're not going to find him, but if you can find him, fine, take him. Like I don't
Like,
care."
whatever.
Which is clear until later
But then
on.
why is she going after him? Does she know that like
because it's a pride thing. Once it actually happens, she doesn't think he can.
look, I'm not saying I'm speaking from personal experience, but if you have a woman who's completely incapable of being a child and you're trying to take the child, they're still going to fight you. From what I've read,
Yeah.
I may or may not
It's-
have
it's-
experience from
yes.
said issues? Maybe.
Yeah, this is a pride issue because we find out later on that Dwight Yoakam
doesn't want him either.
abandoned them, didn't give them any money, just
He wants them as like the reason like he makes it sound like, and it's weird because Dwight Yoakam says he's being abused down there. He's running on the streets. I just want him up here where he's safe. So initially you're just like, okay, I get it. Your son's in a garbage situation. You're trying to get him out. And then as Clint Eastwood calls him, apparently it's taken him at least a month to get from point A to point B. He says
I thought it's been a couple months. It should have taken a few days.
he's
and it's
like
been-
at one point he's like, it's been 2 weeks, and I was like, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I
Just
know they're
rolling
really
around
taking
Mexico.
it felt like a couple of months.
But he says he's like he wants to use the kid as leverage.
Well, that's the reveal.
That's
an hour and 20 minutes. Like that's the last thing in their phone call that you find out is he's like, yeah, I've got this investment, and to avoid taxes, I co-signed with her, and so now the investment's matured, and I want to get the money. So he's playing Eastwood and using the kid to get the money.
What if there was an actor? If you were to put somebody else in this role, current day, who do you think would be this character?
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, dang! I
Would've
don't
been
know. I don't think he's got the toughness.
What, of the Dwight Yoakam character?
No.
Oh,
Clint Eastwood.
Oh, I'm saying like Dwight Yoakam.
Dwight, I could see
be
that.
Philip
Yes,
Seymour
yes.
Hoffman. I'm thinking Punch
sure.
Drunk Love. Like he's
That's
on the phone.
yeah, I
he's
can see
like,
that.
That's good.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen.
no, but that would have been cool. Like
Yeah.
that type of someone with the gravitas.
Yeah.
Like,
Is there an actor who's in his late 60s, early 70s?
like Duvall younger would have been really good in this role.
Yeah.
because he can be that tough guy, but older. But
Duvall
still
always did
Ed
kind of
Harris.
Ed Harris
Ed
is a
freaking
brilliant
Harris
choice
at his age now. Yes,
Yes.
Ed
Ed-
Harris
Yeah, like
is
if you're
the one.
making this movie today with the right
Ed
people,
Harris does
Ed
still
Harris.
look like he will knock you out.
Does anyone watch Westworld?
Yeah.
Ed
Yeah.
Harris
yeah.
in
Yeah. Yeah.
Westworld is this
He
character.
is this character,
He
that's
is that
true.
tough and that
Yeah.
much of a badass, and he owns it. So he's up there in age. He's got to be in his 80s, right? Like he's
Oh, I don't think he's in his 80s.
or close to 80.
I was
mean,
thinking Robert Redford.
Redford too, like
Yeah.
Duvall or Redford. I mean,
Redford today, I think, could still pull this off.
Ed Harris is 70.
Oh, 70. Okay, sorry,
but
not
Ed,
quite
Ed
80.
Harris is a good.
But
that's a
Ed
good
Harris,
call.
but that's also Clint Eastwood at 70. We said it 20
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
so
yeah,
like
yeah.
those tough guys that can still own it at 70 work in this role, and he's completely miscast at 90, probably 90 when they filmed this. It just doesn't work.
Do you think those actors that kind of embody that tough guy role exist anymore?
I don't think
if you were to look at like
It's not what Hollywood wants from
Right.
an actor in the same way
That's what I
anymore.
was thinking.
You know what I mean? There was, I mean,
I'm not even
you
talking
can make
like
a movie about that, about
in
how
this-
tough guy
in this-
actors are out of work.
yeah,
you
in the
know?
70s and 80s, that was the height of macho, right? You
Yeah.
wanted tough. They wanted tough guys. That's not. I mean, look at your action stars now.
That's what I was thinking.
It's Chris Pratt and it's
Chris Evans.
It's
or-
skinny.
Yeah, and it's Robert Downey
Chris
Jr.
Pine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's a little bigger. He's a little more like the Schwarzenegger.
Evans
type.
is a big dude.
Yeah.
And he, yeah.
Hemsworth.
They can.
Oh yeah,
is
yeah,
more
yeah.
of the
Yes.
traditional.
Yes.
But they're not tough in the same way.
Not tough. The build, like
Right. Yeah. There are
But I
certainly
think
lots of people
I'm
in great.
thinking of like that attitude and that grit that.
Right. There are certainly lots of people in great shape, but I'm talking about that exude this macho tough guy. Like that's not what people want
Yeah.
from their action stars anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like how that has changed. Like,
Yeah.
well, and that started to change. I mean, Bruce Willis was the answer to the
I was-
70s and 80s action hero. Was you have him in Die Hard? It's like this guy doesn't look like an action
yeah,
hero.
but you still had the Stallones and the Schwarzeneggers and the Van Dams.
But it
and-
started though.
That's true.
No one
That's
would.
true.
No one would ever. He's Michael Keaton in Batman. You know, it's like who is
Yeah.
this guy you're getting? You're getting
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton as
In this
Clint
movie.
in this movie.
Oh, well, yeah.
I like that.
Because I heard he did really good with the Protege, and in the Protege, he
Protege is
actually-
not bad. It's a fun little. I mean,
okay, so he actually has action scenes, fight scenes. in the
yeah, I
Protege.
think so. I mean, it's been forever since I've seen that, but I
Well,
think
there's
he
the one that
does.
just came out this year.
Oh, I was thinking of the American.
No, this one just came out, the Protege, with from
Yes.
Love Island or whatever that movie. What was that movie? Love Boat. What did we review? The TV show Love Fantasy Island.
Fantasy Island.
What's the? I just can't. I'm blanking on her
Maggie
name.
Q.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
She does action. She actually like broke her back during
Oh,
the
dang.
filming of this movie and still like continued the next week or something. Like she did her own stunts and stuff. So she's in that with Keaton and supposedly it looks really good. Like, yeah, there were stand-ins and they cut around it, but like he does action
Dude's coming back to be
choreography.
Batman. So,
Yeah. But like I've heard that he did pretty well. So I haven't seen it yet, but knowing what people did that saw him doing action in that movie, it's like, okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just thinking. I was thinking this the new action star started with Matt Damon.
Yeah,
like
that's
the Matt Damon is kind of like the Bourne stuff.
yeah.
Because even
I think
as,
he's in the same boat as Willis.
as
Yeah.
jacked as Daniel
I think
Craig is.
I think the evolution away from the tough guy is Bruce Willis. In
I agree.
Die Hard.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the you pinpoint it. That's
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
who even
'cause
did
he's
even
got a
did
foot in
Clint
both-
Eastwood remake.
He's got a foot in both worlds of like he could still play tough guy, but he could also do the other. And it's hard to remember because that character evolved
Right.
Sure,
and turned into tough guy.
But in the first 3, he wasn't.
Yes,
and Die with a
absolutely.
Vengeance, he's still every day.
Yeah. It's interesting because he does have. You're right. He does have that presence where it's like he is smaller in stature, but he could still kick my ass.
Yeah,
Right.
he's the character,
there's that thing that you need to be able to present yourself on screen where you're just like, I understand that he's 5'4" or whatever,
Yeah.
but still, like there's a look to him. We're just like, maybe I'm not going to test him. So I just think it's interesting, like that we have complete like the idea of an action star is the superheroes. Like that's who they are now.
Well,
It's not
and cinema's always evolved. Think about it. Used to be like Errol Flynn as
Robin Hood,
Robin
yeah.
Hood.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was your action star.
Sure.
Those type of swashbuckling epics were the action stars of the day,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so then it evolved into your Stallone, Schwarzenegger stuff. I mean, there may have been stuff in the middle, and I guess more the noir stuff. The detectives were kind of, not there was that much action, but those were your tough guy,
Those were-
macho, and then it was
Yeah.
that Stallone stuff. Then it was Willis.
they were-
now it's superheroes.
They were tough in attitude, but their physical toughness was, because
Also.
the business end of a gun.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Like that
No,
was,
right.
So the idea
Schwarzenegger's
of,
like, I'll just break you in half.
Yeah.
I mean, you see those guns he's firing in Predator or whatever. Those
Oh,
ridiculous.
oh, you mean like the actual guns, not
machine
his
guns.
biceps.
Oh, you see those too, and they're huge. So yeah, the idea of the action star and what's macho has evolved, and I think that this could have been a really good movie, especially reflecting back on his career. But it seems to be coming in 20, 30 years too late, and so it doesn't have that impact. It's not interesting or written well enough. And
You know who would have been good at this if he was still alive? Burt Reynolds.
Absolutely,
Burt Reynolds,
without
yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good call. Yeah. So
really, they go to this little town. They've got to lay low,
So first, the mom like is firing all cylinders at Clint Eastwood, and he's like, "I'm good." It's like what?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
when he
she's-
goes back.
He,
to good.
What are
he
you
goes
doing?
back after the cockfight, and she wants a little cockfight of her own.
Yeah, and he's
And-
like, "No, I'm good."
And she's basically like, if you don't have sex with me, I'm going to call the police and have you arrested for being American.
But in what world does this woman
And she's
go
like,
after
It's
90?
it's a double thing, right? In what world does she go after him? In what world does he turn her down?
in a world where it don't work no more.
That's
Yeah.
also true.
Yeah.
Today's episode brought to you in part by Blue Chew.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was just ridiculous, the fact that he even cast himself in this role and then was swatting them away like flies in this
Yeah,
movie.
then there's the other gal. He's got
Come
two.
on.
He's got two beautiful women.
Which
Yeah.
I get it if he's 70 and he's Clint Eastwood
That's
and
different.
and
I
you've
haven't-
got 20 more years and you want to start a life with this guy, and I totally am all for it, but he's 90. That's only going to
she
end in
looks
heartbreak.
like she's probably in
50 or
the mom. I would say
something.
late
Yeah.
40s, early 50s.
That's
Yeah.
only going to
And-
end in heartbreak when you start a relationship with a
Yeah.
90.
Well, I also
And-
think
and-
the
and-
mom doesn't care.
And a good looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of them.
But it just makes me feel like, what kind of life do they have? And I'm not trying to deny anyone love. That's great. But I just mean that
I mean, it happens, but here's the thing. First off,
But
like,
90 and 50,
but
you don't have any
it's-
time left.
It's still, but it can still happen. But the fact that it happens twice in the span
Right,
of 3
that's my
days
point, is like-
I mean, come on.
And the second gal is significantly older. She's probably in her late 60s, early 70s. So she's closer to his age.
Yeah.
But Clint Eastwood is not. Look.
But so there's I haven't seen The Mule, but from what I understand, there's a
Oh,
scene
yeah,
like
that
this
was
in
the
The
other
Mule as well, where a woman comes on to
Is
him.
it
but
also a Mexican
But
woman?
I don't remember. But he's
'Cause
too.
maybe he has a type.
he's too virile and I'm. It's like him swatting away
Get
the
outta
vagina.
here. That's what
And
I'm saying.
That's Clint
it's-
Eastwood in 1979.
Yeah.
He needs to. He should realize he's 90. I don't care. I know you're Clint Eastwood. You're amazing. We love a lot of the stuff you've done. But you should be able to realize, if you're the director in charge of this movie and you cast yourself, I think you have to look at yourself and be like, I'm not macho. Like, that's the whole thing. You need to learn that you're not macho.
I think
anymore.
I have our answer. Tommy Lee Jones.
Also a great
Yeah,
choice.
yeah.
I think that's
Also an
the right
absolutely
answer
great
here.
choice.
Tommy
Yeah.
Lee Jones going after doing all this stuff. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I could. Those are three solid choices.
Yeah.
And we got Clint Eastwood.
yeah. He should have just directed it. And I think with two
Does
better
Tommy-
actors, even
Does Tommy Lee Jones still act? Did he retire?
he
think
might
he
be
still does movies.
semi-retired. He just did something recently, I think. But
Gene Hackman.
he's definitely retired.
He's retired.
Yeah, but put him in here. Well, you know what? Put him at this point. I'll even go watch old stuff. Man, he's so good.
sure. Yeah,
He's so
I was just
fantastic.
thinking of miss him, and he's retired. Yeah,
Unforgiven.
yeah.
Yeah.
and Quick and the Dead, but
Yeah.
nobody talks about that one.
No, is that the one with Leo?
Yeah, and
1994,
Sharon Stone,
I believe.
Yeah, directed by Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Tommy Lee Jones. He was in Ad Astra.
Oh, barely. But he is in it.
I mean, he's
in the spoilers.
He's the MacGuffin in the film.
He is the MacGuffin.
But he
right.
just made a movie called Wander and something called The Comeback Trail, where he plays
Comeback-
Duke Montana.
I
think it might be a cowboy movie.
No, that's the one that looks really interesting, I think. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I think he is the actor in Western movies, and this is like a Coen Brothers type thing, where the investors, like the producers, want to claim the insurance. They want to kill Duke Montana because he's so old and have him do his own stunts so they can kill him and take the insurance money, but he won't die and he's still awesome even though he's old. That's what that movie is.
That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, and because I caught a preview before a movie, obviously I don't usually watch it, but I saw it and I'm like, okay, that sounds cool.
That sounds
It's
fun.
a dark comedy.
I do like
Is
it.
it,
Also,
Tommy.
the poster looks awful.
is it a Coen Brothers? It's trying to be a Coen Brothers movie, but I don't remember.
Director George Gallo.
Okay, no.
Nope.
This is Gallows
mind.
humor.
Written by Josh Posner.
Okay.
A whole lot of nothing.
Who
But
took
is
a
it-
pill in Ibiza. No, that's Mike Posner.
What's the
completely
synopsis?
different.
Did I get it close? Is that the one I'm thinking of?
I think so. Two movie producers who owe money to the mob set up
Right.
set up their aging movie star for an insurance scam to try and save themselves, but they wind up getting more than they ever imagined.
So that's what, I mean, it stuck with me. I saw that one time a
Right.
few months ago or whatever. I'm like, okay, that I'll watch. And he's a grizzled old cowboy actor.
De Niro and Morgan Freeman.
Oh,
are
that
in
sounds
it.
all right.
Yeah, De Niro is one of the producers. Yeah, and so it's like this
As long
dark.
as he's not anything with Zac Efron, we're doing all right.
It appears like he's in something with Dax Shepard.
God damn it!
Yeah,
I
mean,
gotta
De
tell
Niro-
you, put him back in something with Zac Efron.
Yeah, De Niro, obviously one of the all-time greats, but he is in Paycheck.
Yes.
His
Oh
paycheck
yeah,
era.
with the exception
like,
of The Irishman.
but he came back to do that's what he does.
Yeah.
But all the guys did. But De Niro, I mean, he gave us all those movies. He gave us.
Yes,
He
He's-
had a great run for much longer than you would have thought
Yeah.
before he finally started
Said,
taking
"All
the money.
right, I'll
and
take
even
the-"
when he started taking the money, he still made some pretty good.
Analyze this.
Analyze
Those
This
movies.
is really good.
And even the first
Meet the
Fockers movie,
Fockers.
the first Fockers
Yes.
movie, and then he was.
But
just
those
like,
weren't Paycheck. Those were like, okay, this
I
is.
think they were a little bit of both.
No,
I
but-
think that was how he dipped his toe into the water of
Yeah,
Paycheck.
But I mean, they were
comedy,
good enough
But
where
they
you
were
don't
good.
say that was just a Paycheck.
Absolutely.
He was in,
Yeah.
playing the retired mob guy, so he still had his foot in that kind of thing, but also the comedy and the ridiculous absurdity of it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were still good, but then this era is the bad,
Dirty Grandpa?
dirty grandpa,
Ugh.
and all that. Like, but
so bad.
whatever. It's
terrible.
Yeah.
So basically, now they're on the run. They're on the run from the federales. They're on the run from the mob.
Whatever
mark?
the
Whatever the
mom's
mom's
thing. So
into?
okay, real quick, we got to mention though that so he comes back, he convinces the kid. He said, "Your dad wants you," and he's like, "Why would he abandon us?" He said, "No, your dad's the head honcho at the ranch, and
He's
I'm
a honcho.
yeah, I'm a cowboy, and you're gonna learn. You'll have the run of the place and learn how to be a cowboy." And this kid thinks that's really macho and wants to be a cowboy and wants the love of his dad and everything. So they're like, "Okay, I'll go with you." And the federales come around, and he runs away. So you're like, "Okay, this kid's in some trouble. He's clearly in trouble with the law for the cockfighting and all that stuff." And then he goes back to the house, like the guarded mansion.
Yeah.
And he just walks in
Does
and
just
starts
walk- like
taking
it's-
stuff.
Yeah, right,
and the
right.
bodyguards come with their guns drawn, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, so they bring him to the mom, and then the mom is like, "All right, you're gonna have a drink with me this time."
Yeah.
And then she gets into her nightgown.
She's
and
already
says-
in, like she's in the night. She's in like the.
but she takes
the
her cover
night,
up
yes.
off. She says, "Come to the bed with me," and he walks around to the
He
other
was like,
side.
"Nah."
And then this is where he denies her. He's like, "I got to get going," and she takes this offensively and says, threatens him with calling the police and all that. And then she's like, "You're not taking him. He's my property. He left us, and blah 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 blah." So now it's just a matter of pride, where she's just not, even though she doesn't care about the kid, she sees him as property. Where the dad also, we find out,
Right.
we don't think at this point, but he views
He
it as
also sees it as
property,
property, yeah.
to a leverage to get what he wants. And so you're dealing with two terrible people, which he later on says, like, yeah, he'd be better off without the both of you. That's a good line because it's true. And
He does have moments. There are moments where I was like, I kind of like, if I could get more of like the comedic, like ornery old man Clint Eastwood,
Yeah.
I think I'd be on board. Because like, there's the one scene where they're in the diner. He's like, "Can I wear your hat?" And he was like, "No, you not touch my hat. What's wrong with you?"
Right.
then-
Well, that's where also the movie is tonally awkward because he's trying to be macho and he's trying to live with his own macho-ness and realize for himself that you don't need to be macho and all that. But they go from him and the kid having no chemistry and all that stuff to then it seems almost like too buddy-buddy, like in that scene. It shouldn't be comedic at that point because he's still like, this is just a job and this kid's a punk. And
there's a scene where they're like sleeping out in the desert around the campfire.
Yeah.
And the kid's telling his backstory, and he's like crying while he's telling the story. And I'm like, this kid would not cry while telling the story.
Yeah.
Like if this kid, I'm super macho. Like maybe
Leave it on the streets.
Maybe later in the film, if this is going to be a moment where he shifts.
Right.
But like that's not. We're establishing. Like we haven't established that he's tough. Like why is he crying? Like it's.
Yeah,
it's dumb.
So
it is dumb.
So they go to this small town and they're running from the cops, and so the shop owner who he later falls in love with is like helping them out and telling the sheriff like get out of here. You know, they all know each other in this small town. She's like, no, you get out of here. You're the deputy, not the real sheriff. And so this is where an hour of them dancing, eating, townspeople are coming to him because he's a ranch hand and he knows how to take care of animals. They're bringing their dogs and their horses and whatever.
Like that's another good line where he's just like, man, I can't fix old dogs. That's an old dog. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Right. I mean, it's a good line. I don't know how to fix old, but yeah. And so, which is also, I think, kind of meta.
It is a little bit, yeah.
You know, so that whole thing happens, and then finally
he gets him to the border.
Yeah, time to go home after an hour of what? Nothing.
Yeah, and then like he runs. Does he he goes to his dad, and that's it.
Well, at the end, Eastwood reveals this is where he like opens up to him because they've been buddy and they've been through whatever all this experience has been. He's like, I got to tell you, kid, you know, your dad, just so you know, like he does care about you, but also there's this property. He opens up to him, and the kid is just like, you lied to me. Yeah, they come out with this last minute tension.
Right, Eastwood's like, no, I didn't.
They were like, oh, we forgot we need conflict.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Tell a story.
And so the kid is running away from him, and then the cops find them, and they pull them over, and they're like searching their car, turn it open, and at the end they're like, no drugs. And Eastwood's like, also Eastwood being like mouthing off in this ridiculous manner. I'm like, shut up, you would not.
I gotta tell you, you know what? You could get away with that as an old white man. In America,
maybe. But in Mexico, where these guys, I thought the guy was going to go back and kill him because he hears
they're going to
them.
find drugs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right. The fact that he made it like he was that tough and didn't end in a confrontation between them was ridiculous.
Cry white privilege.
I know.
Yeah, he was mouthing off like in a not okay way with these guys, and so they're like, "Why were you running?" And the kid's like if you didn't have drugs. And he's like, oh, well, you know, my dad, this is my uncle, and I'm trying to get home to my dad, whatever. And then he bribes him. Like, what are we trying to teach? The moral of the story was he's learned enough to where you should be cool enough to bribe cops.
It's the first manly thing the kid's done in the whole movie.
Right. And then and it's like, this is the point of movie where you're supposed to learn
he palms the money.
Yeah,
he's like, yeah, I think we're good here, right? Don't you worry
And that's
yourself.
like the big moment. It's like, no. You're supposed to grow out of doing things like that. The whole
Say
point
hello
of the
to
movie,
your mother for me.
Why was that a good thing? Like, no, bribing officials. Now you're a real man. Like, it was so stupid.
I think they were trying to say that he figured out a way to solve the problem without violence. Maybe.
Oh, yeah, so bribe
you're not
officials.
wrong. He does
Oh,
solve the
Lord.
problem without violence. That is true.
Okay. So anyway, but then the bodyguards, that like only one of them, we see two in the beginning. There's one the whole way.
And this poor schmuck keeps getting knocked out by Clint Eastwood.
And like we said at the diner, Clint Eastwood, or he swings at Clint Eastwood or something, and then he dodges it, and then Clint Eastwood throws a punch, and he's like, "You're fast, old man." It's like, no, he was not
if
fast.
you mean dodge, Clint Eastwood just kind of like leaned backwards about an inch.
Yeah.
And then so he ends up hitting him, and then the guy says, oh, they're trying to take my kid. And then the kid's like, no, he's lying. This is my uncle. And then shows his scars and everything. And then like 20 Mexicans come around, snag the bodyguard, and start punching him and just punching him. So they did solve that with violence.
Right.
I did like where that's another scene where he was like, we got to go.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
So anyway, but in the end, he brings him to the border where Dwight Yoakam's there. And then the kid goes to America to be with his dad. But then Clint Eastwood goes back to the diner after he had already left them.
Right,
it was like
that's
a sad
right,
moment.
That's right, yes.
The woman, her 4 kids or whatever, like they all love him.
And grandkids.
Well, and he becomes a part of the town and everything, but he's like, he has to leave. He has to go back home. And so it's like, no, he stays there, which you kind of could predict from a mile away. Like, what life does he have back there? What, to go live in the place that he can't afford and whatever. So
Right.
he goes back and they dance, and that's it. Ends.
Man, this
They
movie
make a pie?
Oh, don't get me started on the kitchen scene. I watched that and I'm like, oh my god.
Don't do it when they're making tortillas.
Yeah.
It's like,
Do
Do they
oh
have
God.
do they have Labor Day in Mexico?
I don't know, but it was bringing back flashbacks, and I was not liking it.
This movie sucked.
It did.
This is
So boring.
Oh, it was so boring.
So
and
I
it's-
don't get what they're trying to establish.
No. It was.
But at the
not-
end, the very last line again that he talks to the kid was the line, which is like, "You shouldn't have to be macho," and it's like self-reflective, where Eastwood learned that, and he's finally passing it on to the kid, and that would have worked had we seen a movie that
Sure.
presented those macho concepts in a good way. But that was the best line, like the most poignant thing in the film. And it's like, wow, that was a long walk. No pun intended, literally a long walk to get to that line and that lesson. And
I heard half the budget went to the driving scenes. They had to CGI out the blinker.
oh
He
my
left.
He
on
left
the
it-
whole
he left it
time.
on the
Oh
entire
my gosh,
movie.
Clint Eastwood driving in
Whole
the car.
movie.
Oh, looked like he was driving an old 70s station wagon or something, with the huge wheel.
Yes,
It
yes.
just
Well, and there was one moment where like his arthritic hands like gripping the wheels.
I
Like,
know.
man, they're gonna have to get like the set medic to get his
Yeah.
hands off
Wha-
that steering wheel.
So why was this movie set in 1980?
I don't know. Maybe
Guess that's
because
just when the book
because
was
that's
written.
when they could.
I
get
mean,
the
there was
cars.
no reason for it to be.
No.
Like I don't.
Because modern day masculinity is different. I think they would have had more trouble.
But
with
nobody's
Eastwood
masculine in
directing.
this movie.
Yeah,
I know,
guess,
but
There's no
I-
level of masculinity in this movie.
I guess it's
guns and
easier.
stuff.
It's easier to believe that he was a big giant rodeo star in 1950 than
Right.
to believe he was a big giant rodeo star in 1980.
Yeah, they'll have to change
guess
so
that's
much
true.
stuff
Yeah.
to adapt to modern day. And then again, with modern days, and they'd probably have assault rifles, and it'd be harder to run from them, and the cops would have their super fast cruiser.
That's
You know what I mean?
true.
It's just dating this movie in this slow setting and old
That's
setting.
why. That's
was-
why a slasher movie won't work in 2021.
Right.
I mean,
It's hard
it's
to-
going to be. You're gonna have to find a spot for be like, go into the middle of the woods where nothing works,
Right.
and then maybe we can make this happen.
How every horror movie has the same scene where like we don't get cell reception here.
right.
Yeah.
Our cell phones don't work. The internet's down.
Yeah, this
Right.
town is like a time capsule.
So
I guess we'll find out. That's in like 3 weeks.
Well, it's over
We'll see
there
how
on
it
HBO
goes.
Max if you want to second guess us.
Yeah.
but,
Do not. I was telling people I usually don't say anything before the show, but I'm like, do not waste your time with this movie. There's a lot of movies out the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Released. There's Kate on Netflix, who I thought was
Which I
really
wanted
good.
to- Yeah.
I mean, that was really great action, gory action, crazy stuff.
That's with
Mary Elizabeth
Elizabeth Winstead?
Winstead's really good in it.
Give me that
Um,
Huntress movie.
Yeah,
Or TV show.
But I mean, that's an excellent movie. And there's like everybody's talking about Jamie on Amazon Prime. If you're a musical person, that's really good. I mean, there's so many other movies that you should spend your time on. And I know the new Eastwood movie may sound appealing.
Yeah.
but this is not. Go watch Unforgiven.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
easily.
Yeah.
Or the
Totally.
2013 version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
apparently.
So anyway, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at Facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. Find the show online at Facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. And of course, don't forget our Patreon, Patreon.com/Real Spoilers. Do we know what next week is?
I thought it was the Guilty with Jake Gyllenhaal. I think that's on Netflix.
Could be an option. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Netflix.
I think.
I don't know. Well, we will see. So we'll figure it out, and then you'll know. You'll know probably before we do. Somehow. I don't know how that works, but it
Perfect.
does. So anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, Bobby Lee thinks Butch is drawing a gun.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you.